Welcome back to Gen Z Podcast, episode 37, where we welcome Danny from the Washington, D.C. area. If you're from the area listening now, you probably are familiar with the business that we got the chance to dive into today. The business is called Clay Boys, and we talk about Danny and his brother taking over the business during COVID from a couple older guys. And then we talk about them growing the business and all of the intricacies that come with growing a shaved ice business. And we really think that this episode epitomizes what this podcast is about. And that's with Gen Z entrepreneurs really taking over a simple idea and making it their own and growing it to something that we can talk about today. So look forward to all of you listening and hope you enjoy as much as we did. And welcome to episode number 37.
The Gen Z Podcast. 4 voices, unfiltered opinions on today's topics. We welcome you to speak freely and think deeply about today's episode.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Gen Z Podcast. This week is very exciting because we have our first in-person interview for the Gen Z Podcast, and that interview is with Mr. Danny McKinnon. Danny McKinnon is a Washington native. He went to DeShano Middle School and then Gonzaga High School, where we were classmates. After that, he went on to University of Maryland. During his University of Maryland experience, he bought Clay Boys. And for those of you outside of the Washington area who are unfamiliar with Clay Boys is a staple to the Maryland, I would say summer scene, really.
Yeah, like lower Montgomery County, like parts of Northwest DC. We definitely had like a decent following around there. So yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I grew up. Some of my favorite summertime memories are learning to ride a bike so I can go into Bethesda and get a Clay Boy. So when Danny told me in 2021 that he bought it with his brother Billy, I was very excited that he took this business that was started in the mid 90s by two brothers who are coming of retirement age. And he bought it with his brother, and they have grown it. They've put in that great Gen Z energy and grown it from one truck and one cart, and now they have 4 trucks and 4 carts out there servicing the area every day. So Danny, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on. I'm a huge fan of the show. And thanks everybody for listening. Let me talk about my business.
Yeah. So Danny, let's get into it. How did Clay Boys start? What's the original story? And then weave that into the story of how you came to know that it's for sale.
Yeah, of course. So originally the original owner, his name's Scott Steyer. He moved to Hawaii sometime in his younger years. He met a friend out there who had his own shaved ice cart, and that's how he was making his living. And I'm pretty sure from what I had heard from him is that he basically like mimicked his exact same business model and started his own shaved ice cart on another side of the island as like a way for like income while he was living out there. And then when he moved back to the DMV area, which is where he's like a native to, he started his own shaved ice business in downtown Bethesda, and it was actually the first food cart in Montgomery County, like the first food truck or food cart is the location right out on like the intersection of like Bethesda Avenue and Woodmont Avenue, which a lot of people are familiar. It's like outside of where the old Barnes and Noble used to be. It's now in Anthropology. But yeah, that cart location was where he started, and eventually his brother got involved because his brother was I believe he was a middle school teacher, and during the summer he would take over the responsibility of like the cart. So his brother would go and sell shaved ice out on that cart from like 11 to 5 every day, and Scott kind of retrofitted a pickup truck to have a shaved ice stand in the back of it, and Scott would drive that around to like different pools and summer camps and stuff like that. And a lot of people are really familiar with him through he would go to like Bolus camps and land in summer camps. So those were like his 2 primary hotspots, and he'd also go to like all like the lower Montgomery County pools, so like pools in Bethesda, Chevy Chase, like Potomac, Kensington. Yeah, he would stick to those areas. And so yeah, he and his brother did that for really long time. That's where like obviously our familiarity with the business came from. Like we'd go and get shaved ice from him on Bethesda Avenue. Like I'd go very frequently growing up with my older brother. And then flash forward to like the pandemic, so 2021, my brother had just gotten back from college and he found out that the business was for sale by like looking up online because he noticed that the cart wasn't getting put out anymore. And I got a phone call from him, and he was like, "Hey, like I just found out that Clayboys was for sale. Do you want to like take it over?" And it kind of had to be like a spur of the moment decision. And I mean, the middle of the pandemic, I really had nothing going on for me. I was like dunking fries at Looney's in College Park. That was the one job I was doing, and all my classes for college were all online. So I like didn't really have much else going on. So I was like, yeah, like why not? Like really didn't have anything to risk. So yeah, I mean, we made this we like made the decision to take it over, and after we did that, yeah, it's been going well ever since. Luckily, so yeah, just slow growth each season. Luckily, we have like a about like a 5 or 6 month off season where like we can kind of like plan for the next year. Just because those are like the colder weather months around here. So after each season ends, we kind of like recuperate, fix up all the equipment, try to look ahead to the next year, how we can like grow it a little bit. So yeah, that's really been it.
So is it full time now?
No,
The full
so
time?
yeah, so we run it from April to October every year. So basically, I mean, it's really hard for us to sell ice when the weather drops below 70 degrees, just because like it's gonna make you uncomfortable if you eat it while it's cold out. So yeah, once the weather gets warm enough, we'll get back out on the trucks and like we'll kind of have like a slow progression to the season. Like we'll have the trucks kind of go around to like some sports practices, sports games. And then once the weather really starts to warm up, that's when we start to get like more inquiries for like booking and stuff. And we also get a lot of like school events and whatnot. And yeah, that's where the majority of the business is coming from at this point, is like kind of like the catering side of it, like being able to go out to like private events and stuff in people's homes, like kids' birthday parties, like backyard cookouts, like, and then the other end of it is like going to school events, like like sometimes like classes will like plan a treat for the school, and we'll go and bring one of our trucks and pull it up onto a school's campus and serve everybody. And that's another really good part of business for us.
All
So
right,
yeah,
I meant are you full time? Are you full time
yeah,
on
yeah,
it? Or do you
yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, so this is my one occupation right now. Obviously, I'm like not generating income when we're not out actually selling shaved ice, but during our off season, like I kind of just like everything is DIY. So like all the equipment we make, like it's kind of got to be like put together by my brother and I. So we like work with like carpenters and like welders and a bunch of other people, and also like painters and stuff, because everything's like hand painted and all the signage and all that. We kind of like during the off season just try to like fix everything up, find ways to make the business better, and like also expand it. So I'm not working any other jobs right now other than this. This is like my primary focus, and it keeps me occupied throughout the year.
Love that.
Nice.
What was it like starting up in COVID? I mean, you took it over in 2021, right? And then how many spots did you have at that time? And then kind of was there demand there even through COVID? Because I know a lot of people weren't outside and all of that came with that. So how was it then? And then how did you kind of expand and what have you expanded that to?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so that first summer, we took it over in the middle of the summer, instead of, so like we ended up taking it over in like the middle of like June, and by that point, like the best period of business for us we found is like from late May to like early July, because that's when like people are still around town. It's like graduation season, whatnot. So yeah, that first summer was a huge struggle. We didn't really do well at all. We basically like only like made enough to like cover the cost of like what we needed to like pay back the business. Just because yeah, like during it was like right during that phase where people were just kind of starting to like gather outside a little bit more. Like people were still wearing masks outside. Like the social distancing aspect was definitely still there. And there was less gathering plans in general, but like it was at the point in time where like people were still like slowly starting to get back to like how things were pre-pandemic. So yeah, like definitely like there's a massive like change from summer 2021 to summer 2022. I feel like by the summer 2022, it almost felt like everything was back to normal. People like weren't wearing masks outside, and they were kind of like treating life and like gatherings as they were before. So yeah, that first summer 2021 was definitely a slow start for us. And yeah, we had a massive change in the next year. So.
What did you change in the next year? Like, did you just understand what the opportunities were? Is it just simply because the demand was more because COVID was kind of over? There are other things that went on.
Yeah, so for the second season, we ended up expanding in the sense that we added on a second cart and a second truck. So we tried to start a second car location in Federal Plaza in downtown Silver Spring, and then we also added on a second truck that my brother primarily drove to like try and just branch out a little bit more. So then we had two trucks kind of like cycling the area, and also two trucks available for like events and private booking. Because like by that period of time, we like did a lot of like kind of like just like promotion for the business like that off season, trying to like spread the word that like, oh, Playboys is back. We also were like trying to get more into like the private event sector, which like the previous owners didn't really have. They like didn't really have any like online presence or like a website or like an email or anything like that. There wasn't really a way to reach them. We tried to market that a lot with like just by like cold calling and like cold emailing schools like, hey, like we're open to do events and stuff for you guys. If you guys like want to have us out, like that'd be awesome. Like we also like priced ourselves like insanely competitive. Like we were so cheap. Like we were like, I don't know, our the shaved ice is like a high margin product, but still like we were like by far like the cheapest like dessert caterer you could get in the area, just like to try and get our foot in the door with all these different places. And yeah, so that summer basically yeah, we tried to like switch it all up by like doing a ton more birthday parties, like a lot more school events and stuff like that.
Okay, so I'm curious. So you price yourself super cheaply. You're trying to break into the market again or let people know that you're there, running around to all these private events. Did you ever do a private event in that time period that was like kind of weird or
Oh
shut
yeah,
into a
of
situation?
course, yeah. Well, we took over the business without like any formal training. Like my brother and I were both like English majors in college, and like all of a sudden we gotta like figure out how to be like snow cone men, like out on the road. Like it's basically like being an ice cream man. Like you gotta like you have your hot spots, like you have your territories, like and you gotta kind of like navigate like where you're gonna do good business out, and then also yeah, like obviously like, going to events and stuff where you have like no true idea of like how busy you might be. Like there were multiple occasions where like I went into something where it's just like, oh yeah, like I'll be fine, like out here on my own, like and like I'll definitely like not get slammed or anything, and like I end up like pulling up somewhere and I get like a line of like 50 people, and like our pickup trucks are like set up in the way that like I'm serving on the back, like there's a countertop in the back of the truck, and like I can kind of just get like crowd surge like just forming around me like right at the back of it, like people just like swarming me while I'm like trying to like make them like snow cones, and there's like like no like queue, like no orderly line, and like it took like a while for us to like figure out like okay, like we got to be like strategic when we like go to these events. Like we have to like get like a estimated head count from like these coordinators, like how many people they think we're going to be serving, so that way we can know like, oh, we need to send two people, figure out a way like how to like organize our line so that way it's not just like sheer chaos while we're serving them. Like a bunch of other stuff like that. Like now, like just because we have like 4 years of experience under our belt, like we have like certain systems in place. Like when we go to like, for example, like a high volume school event, like we'll know exactly how to do it. Like for example, like we'll only like use like one size because that speeds up the process, because like that way we just like can have like a bunch of like shaved ice ready, like to get syrups put on them and just have them be like handed out to the customers, and like other stuff like that, like little things that can like really like speed up your line and make it so like we can serve like the highest, but like make sure like basically everybody that's in attendance at that event, like who wants shaved ice, like end up getting served. yeah, there were definitely like a lot of like bumps in the road when we first like started out. Was like we were just like taking over this business kind of like blind without like knowing any like true way to like of like how to run it, because the old guys were kind of just like, here's the equipment, like it's yours. Like, yeah, well, there was one day where I drove around with the previous owner, Scott. Like, he just like showed me basically like the pools he used to go to, and like, yeah, all that sort of stuff. So that was it.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so this
Oh, I just wanted to ask a question. I mean, so I love this whole business. I used to work at a donut shop around the area called District Donut. Um, One question I had is, do you feel like there's any particularly niche challenges running kind of like a physical store where you're on your feet all day and then you have to worry about the business side of things? Like I remember when I was working at the donut shop and I didn't work every day and it was kind of a summer gig. I would just come home destroyed, tired, and because it's a client facing job. The motto was happiness found. So like you always had to have this big smile across your face and welcoming everyone for 8 hours, and then you clean up and then you go home and you're like, oh my gosh, like I can't do anything for like the next few hours or whatever. But in your case, like it seems like you have to worry about the business, financials, what am I doing tomorrow? So I don't know if you can walk me through a little bit of some of those difficulties or whatnot.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. So, at this point, like, my brother and I, we kind of have like a clear like division of like labor. Like, he handles all of like the customer outreach. So, like, anybody that's like asking us for like about like a private event, like all our email, all of our social media, like he takes care of all of that. Like all of the inquiries that come in, like he's the guy that'll jump on a call with like a customer and like talk them through our different like booking options, and like helps them like pick an option, and like we get a deposit down and we get it like solidified so that way like it's on the books and everything. So yeah, that's honestly a tough, like he does all that and he does a great job of that. Whereas like my segment of the business is I manage all of the employees, like I manage the schedule, and then I also in charge of like all the inventory. So like basically like making sure that we have like enough ice for everybody each day, making sure that everybody has like the supplies that we need, which is like paper stock. So like cups, spoons, napkins, like the Swedish fish that goes at the bottom of each cup. Like I gotta like make sure that like everybody's stocked up with all of that, and then at the same time like, so this summer we had like about like 14 or 15 employees, primarily like high school and college kids, and then I also will have like on our busy days like some of my like friends that kind of know what they're doing, help out, and they'll like help out on the trucks and stuff because they're obviously like experienced drivers. So yeah, I'm super grateful for them. But yeah, like my responsibility is like not simply just like going and driving around and moving product. It's also like making sure that like we have everything that we need. And yeah, so like we run the business out of like a commissary, and we make sure that I mean, we have like 15 freezers that are all filled with like gallon buckets of filtered water for our ice, and I have to like constantly be like making sure that we're gonna have enough ice for the next day, or if like there's a busy day on the horizon, I need to make sure that like the freezers like are like gonna have the ice blocks ready for that day, so that way we like don't run out of product. And so yeah, like obviously like the challenge is like not just like going out and serving every day. It's also like all of like the upkeep. So yeah, I mean like a good way to like I guess preface that is like I like we're really only like operating like out in public for 6 months out of the year, but like during those 6 months, I think I like work more hours than most people do with like any average 9 to 5, just because like of all of like the upkeep. So like yeah, it's basically like a 12-hour day, like 7 days a week during like our peak season. And it's
You're
been like that for the last 3 years. So yeah, it's definitely like really tough, but it's a labor of love, like they say. Like it's one of the trade offs with like like having and managing your own business and like being able to like make your own decisions. Like it's you're just gonna have to put in those extra hours to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's a good segue into my question. I'm very I've enjoyed hearing you talk about the different buckets from logistics to operations to sales and marketing, and these different verticals, and it's very interesting. I want to take you a little bit back to sort of the origin, right? Take me back to 3 years ago, right? A lot of what was going on the 270 private high school scene was Danny started a shaving ice business. Um, and obviously you hear that, at first, and it's very contrarian. It's something that most people don't do. You just alluded to sort of people going into 9 to 5s and how in that 6 months you're sort of eclipsing what someone would do on probably an annual yearly basis. So I guess really my question is like, you and your brother kind of like just jumped in the soup. 3 years later, you're sort of figuring it out. But what was it where you were just like, when was the moment, maybe like the aha moment that you're like, all right, I'm going full time on this? Because you're glowing now, right? Hearing you talk about the business is beautiful. So where was that moment you and your brother had that you were just like, we're doing this?
Well, yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, thanks for asking that. I think like from the beginning, we kind of like saw like the potential that the business had just because of like the brand recognition within like the area that we're all from. Like everybody like kind of like grew up, at least like had like one or two experiences like getting like the product from people or from like the old guys that used to run it. But it was still such a small business to where it was just like two different places that you could get it from, one truck or the cart in Bethesda. And we saw like, oh, with like this amount of brand recognition, like we can kind of like expand like pretty quickly, like within taking over the business. So like, I mean, it was still sort of like the expansion was still like somewhat slow. It was only like, one truck added on each year, but like after every single time that we did that, like going into the next season, we're like, oh, okay, like we had like this amount of days where like there was still like business available for us, or like we had to like, turn down certain people that like wanted to book with us on these days because we were already completely booked up. So like if we had another truck for the next season, like we'd be able to cover that. And like having that other truck, it's like it added, income for the both of us. And we were like, oh, okay, like well, if we keep doing this, then like we'll just be like set with this, So like we kind of feel like live like completely now, like being able to keep expanding it, seeing how far we can take it. So yeah, I mean, I guess like the aha moment kind of came after, I would say like after like that second season of running it, where we like saw like how much more like we had to do um like after that first season, like how many more people were like reaching out to us for like birthday parties and stuff, and like all the new schools that like had invited us out to like their school events, because they end up being like returning customers, like the PTAs, like the parent teacher association, that is, they're the ones that like kind of like organize all these school events, and like they'll have like preferred vendors that they reach out to, and like once we got on that list with them, like we ended up getting passed over. And kind of our whole like spiel with them was just like, oh, we're like cheaper than our biggest competitor, like Kona Ice. I'm sure you guys are like familiar with them. They're kind of like the McDonald's of the industry. They like have like a like national franchisees. Like you reach out to them and you get one of these like big box trucks, and they basically do the exact same thing as us. It's just like the business model is like high volume events, like where you're just like giving out shaved ice. Obviously, the goal is to like sell as much product as possible, move as fast as possible, and it ends up working out for all the franchisees because the product has such a high margin, just because it's literally you're selling three things. It's just ice, sugar, and water. That's literally it.
I
Um,
um I love
so
I love hearing you speak about this. Just seeing you. I've known you for years. And you're quite literally glowing right now. Hearing you talk about just your business and not understanding it at first, but just jumping in the soup and then figuring out, letting your feedback loop come back and then iterating from there. It's wonderful to hear. And for you guys to have this growth, I'm just grateful that you've been on the pod with us.
thanks. Yeah, of course.
And I want to hop on that. You see, Micah's wearing the Clay Boys
Yeah,
shirt.
we're
Danny's
matching.
wearing the Clay
Yeah.
Boys shirt.
Well, I gotta work after this, so I'm just like in my work uniform.
But I'm curious. So we go around, we socialize, we go to parties. I see people all the time wearing Clay Boys shirt, Clay Boys hat, the sticker on the back of their phone. How does that make you feel that your product is touched all these people and that they're so
Yeah,
proud to support you.
it's awesome. I mean, it's really like I feel like honestly like really lucky to have had the opportunity in the first place. Like even though like having no idea of like what like would have been able to come of it. But yeah, I really appreciate like a lot of people like supporting like the super small brand. Like I feel super lucky to have had like the ability to like take over a business like at such a young age. Like even though it is like the simplest business that anybody with half a brain could run, like really what it takes is just like the I don't know like the work ethic to be able to like stick it out and do it every day like in a row for like however many months of the year where the weather's warm. But yeah, no, I really appreciate like having friends that like are supportive of like the brand and stuff. And my older brother Billy has done like a great job of getting merchandise to anybody that wants it. That's like all his department. So he like basically has gotten a T-shirt in the hand of like anybody that wants one. Like how we do it is like varying like the kind of the nature of the business. Like we recycle like old T-shirts he finds from like thrift stores, just like old blank T-shirts, and we'll wash them and then he'll screen print this design on every single one, which is like a design from the original owner. And I mean, the old guy who, I mean, he came up with a great logo for the business. Yeah. The old guy Scott. The story of the logo is actually his friend had a band, and the band was called Pleasure Dog. So that's this logo right here. And it was basically just a dog like this. But then Scott, the old owner, just took that dog and put like a Hawaiian shirt on it that just had snow cones on it. So that's the origin story of the logo. Beautiful. And yeah, we just like stuck to that. So yeah, I mean, we haven't really changed anything about the brand or the business model at all. We try to like stay true to its roots as best as we can because like I mean, they're really like there wasn't really any like really great way to improve it like from what he had done. Like he had been doing it for like 30 years and he knew the best way to do it, and we're like, okay, like yeah, like we're gonna take your word for it and stick to the exact kind of business model that you've operated with, and it's ended up working. And I also think that like the Bethesdans and the people that have like kind of been familiar with the business for like so long, like I think they have grown to like appreciate like that we've like stuck to like the roots and like the DIY nature of it, like using like local artists to like hand paint all the signs, and like all like, the magnets on the truck are like done by like like friends I know that like can draw really well. So shout out to our buddy Graham. He does all of our magnets. Yeah, he was like helping me out all off season like with our like menu boards, which are like all like magnetic. So yeah, he's done a lot in helping me with all the art and stuff.
Danny, one topic I wanted to get into is a topic we've discussed on the podcast before, but basically our generation has a unique opportunity where a bunch of these older people, the older generation, has all this money, all of these businesses. A lot of them don't have anywhere to turn in terms of somebody taking it over. Maybe their son isn't equipped or they don't have a son, but how has it been getting this from an older person? 30 years is crazy. So they've just been in this business for so long and then taking it over. Like was there I mean you said it stayed relatively the same, but is there a lot more opportunity for you to implement different things, maybe like an ordering system that would make it more efficient? But what did he do that you guys are continuing to do, and then what has he not done that you guys are looking to kind of implement?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Thanks, Gavin. So I guess to answer the last part of that, the best way to put it would be like nothing has changed at all about like the design of the equipment, which I think is like one of the most unique aspects of the business. So like the way our pickup trucks look, and anybody that's like gotten shaved us from us is obviously like familiar with this. It's like there's like a plywood like canopy that like is all built from material you can just go buy at Home Depot, and it's super simple. I mean, all it takes is like a couple measurements and a couple cuts to like be able to build it out, and then what we serve off of is like a steel countertop in the back of the pickup truck with like our shaved ice planer and our bottle rack, because like all we need is like the ice maker, which like makes like the flaky soft ice, and then the bottle rack, which holds like the 15 different flavored syrups that we have. And we've kept those setups the exact same because there's no necessity to change that. Like we just sell one product, which is like shaved ice in 3 different sizes with like 15 different flavor options. And then now we also sell bottled water, just because we go to so many like sporting events, and kids get dehydrated, they want water, so they'll come to our trucks, like they'll want a cup of ice and like a bottle of water. So yeah, that's like definitely the way that we've like kept it the same. And I wouldn't change anything about the way that our like trucks and carts are built out, and the fact that they're like open to the air. And I also think that like another appeal of it is like the fact that you get to like see everything made in front of you. It's like kind of like the appeal to going to like Krispy Kreme. You see them like frying the donuts in front of you. Like with us, like kids get to see us like taking these massive like gallon size ice blocks and like shoving them into this like ancient machine that like looks like a converted drill press, and like it's just like coming out as like nice, like beautiful, like ice flakes at the bottom. And kids like kind of are mesmerized by that. And like I think that like makes it like a really memorable experience. So I mean, like the previous owner was kind of like a genius for like I don't even know if like this was his intention, but like when I grew up getting clay boys, like I like have like vivid experiences of like seeing like him make it. And like obviously like the whole other thing, which is like the Swedish fish at the bottom of each cup that everybody kind of remembers us for, is like it kind of like separates us from like other shaved ice companies, because it's like it makes this experience more memorable, because like it's like the surprise at the end. And like it's also like, oh, it's not like any other shaved ice you get from anywhere, because like there's a Swedish fish at the bottom. It's the one different thing. But yeah, so that's like the way that we've kept it the same. Like there's never going to be any way that I alter that from what it is right now. But I guess as far as like the differences in what we've done since we've taken it over is just like differences in expansion, and also kind of like branching out into like having a team of employees like run the business, rather than just like 2 guys. So like over this season, it was kind of like the first time where I'd like manage a bunch of different employees and a bunch of different drivers. And like half of the kids are like guys that like I literally like was like 4 years ahead in middle school of. And like they come back from college, and like they all just like, I get a random text one day, they're like, oh yeah, like I'm broke, like I need a job. I'm like, okay, yeah, come work for me. Like I'll like drive around with you on my truck, I'll show you how to make the snow cones, and like we'll we'll get you started, and we'll see how it works. And yeah, that's ended up working out. Like younger brothers of friends have been like employees for me. And then also just like kids that we've met out in public where we're like, hey, like if you need a summer job, like come help us out. Yeah, so we have like a team of employees that are running the business now. We have like the high school kids do the cart in downtown Bethesda. We have like 2 different shifts out there, like an AM and a PM shift. So like there's a shift change around 3 p.m. every day, where like one kid goes and they get this cart set up, and then they stay there serving off of it until 3 p.m. And then another kid comes in at 3 p.m., takes over, like, and then we close at 7 p.m. So he'll sit out there like selling product until 7 p.m., and then he'll go and take the tricycle cart back into where we store it. And then the other part of the business are like the trucks. So we have like we have like a warehouse depot where we run the trucks out of. All the trucks are like parked outside of it. The guys that are driving that day will come in the morning. My brother and I will be at the warehouse each day at like 8 a.m. to get like the product ready for everybody. We have like ice and syrup ready for everybody to go. They come, they check what their truck needs, they like grab everything, they bring it out to their truck, they get it loaded up, they get as much ice as they think they're gonna need for that day. And then they, like make everything look sharp, make sure they have enough change. Like there's a whole like list of like a checklist of stuff that we make them go through each day before they go out, and make sure that they have everything that they need, so that way like we aren't scrambling because they forgot something, which actually does happen all the time. Like I'll get like a SOS call from somebody at an event, like my batteries are dead on my truck, like I need another one. I'll be like, god, like I gotta like hustle over there in my truck and like give them like the supplies that they need. Like it happens all the time. Like those are the roadblocks we run into. Yeah, it's kind of like I guess the biggest difference is like it used to be run by like 2 like like mature like older adult men, where now it's just like run by like a bunch of kids. And my brother and I, who are like, it's a Gen Z, it's a truly Gen Z business, run by my brother and I, who, I mean, we're 25 and 24. Yeah, like
But you're
we're
doing
able to.
great. You're doing great. I mean, to Gavin's point, there's going to be $70 trillion that's passed over from baby boomers to millennials. So a lot of these, you've constantly iterated on like this is a very simple business model, right? And that, it doesn't, it's saved ice, but it's all the other things. So it doesn't matter if you have a small business or, the Magnificent Seven and these huge tech businesses. Being a business owner, you still got to deal with so much from overhead to operations, logistics. You're now an employer, right? Like this is, all these very interesting buckets too. So to hear you segue through it all is pretty interesting. It's definitely pretty interesting. More than I knew before going into this call, for sure.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and I might be kind of all over the place when I'm talking about it. Like, I mean, because there's so many different like aspects of it. Like, so not my logic isn't all fluid. It's kind of just like stuff's popping into my head
It's your
about like the
passion
stuff. Yeah,
shining through.
exactly. But I
No,
guess
but to pop in, I mean, I don't know if you've read uh Danny, Sam Walton's Made in America, but this kind of
I need
just
to.
kind of what you're talking about is how the most, I mean, I think it's the largest by revenue company in the world. I think I read somewhere, or one of the top three, Walmart. Um, and like you were literally just explaining all these different things. You're just trying different experiments, seeing out, oh, does this place work? It doesn't hurt to try. And you're young, you got a lot of energy, you just go for it. Oh, this place actually sells a lot. So now we can open up another car or whatnot. And there's just so
Yeah,
many little business lessons that you're putting in there. Like I remember when I worked at the donut shop, we had a creme brulee donut, and so instead of just like firing it in the back, they would fire it in front of the customer, and the customer would be excited. They'd pull out their Instagram, put it on their story, and just like what you're saying, just like how you make the shaved ice, and like the person or the customer seeing how you produce it in front of them makes a big difference. So this is just so there's just so many like incredible lessons in it, and I think you mentioned earlier on, and I wanted to just go into this a little bit. Did you, when you bought the business, did you buy it with the promise of like, from the profits that I get the business, I will pay you back for
yeah,
everything? Was
exactly.
it
Yeah,
okay?
that's right.
That's super interesting because I think a lot of people, when they hear this, advice from other people, which is buy a business from a baby boomer or some Gen Xer who wants to sell their business, a lot of people say like, oh, I don't have the money to do it, you know. But like in your example, I mean, you just like there was an arrangement set and you were able to do it. So yeah, I mean, kudos to you.
No, yeah, it's definitely like at the gratitude of like the previous owner. He's like the coolest guy ever. Like not like obviously like the business was like a way that he like supported himself and his family for like many years. He was like really not like super worried about like the price point, and was really like lenient with like the time that he allowed us to like pay him back. I mean, we got the money to him like soon enough, but yeah, like that first season, my brother and I didn't really have anything. Luckily enough, like my dad was like supportive enough to like help us with like a small down payment for the business that, I mean, we eventually ended up paying him back for after that second season, just to like kind of like solidify that like we were taking it over and everything. So yeah, that was definitely like a great. I was definitely grateful to have had that opportunity, like to have had the backing to even be able to do it in the first place. So
This is the generational shift in practice. Ladies and gentlemen, Danny McKinnon, owner of Clayboys, a Gen Z entrepreneur through and through, taking a local treasure and making it shine even brighter. Danny, thanks for coming on the
yeah,
Gen
of
Z
course. Yeah,
podcast.
thanks for having me, guys. Really good talking to you all.